Welcome to the Public Affairs Office of the Central Intelligence Agency. Our menu options have changed, so please listen carefully. If you wish to speak to a public affairs officer, press 1. If you are calling regarding employment, press 2. If you are
Central Intelligence.
please leave your name, number, and a brief message. A public affairs officer will return your call. Thank you. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, Central Intelligence. My name is Clyde Lewis. I'm a talk show host in Portland, Oregon. I just received a phone call that sounded like it was a threatening phone call from someone telling me that I'm saying some things on the air about North Korea that I shouldn't be talking about. It was a voice that sounded like it was synthesized, trying to scare me. I would like to know who at your company is doing this, and I want them to stop. Please call back. My number? Well, I tell you what, you got my number. Take care. Bye. Did you get any part of that message?
No.
Shit.
No.
I'm Clyde Lewis. Welcome to Ground Zero Behind the Scenes. Today, a very, I guess you could call it, peculiar Ground Zero Behind the Scenes. It's the first time in the 18 years I've done this program that I have had this happen. I mean, we've had people come on the show before and have been called away, have been told to not talk. Like they got a visit and they said, don't talk about a certain subject. I remember when we had Lafayette on the program and we had Coleman. He was on the program. They both were called away saying they couldn't talk about certain subjects. Well, here's a situation where we're talking about electronic harassment on the program, and all the while we're talking about this, there's a situation happening in Covina, California, where a man walks into a Home Depot. He goes without fanfare, walks into an aisle where they have tools. He grabs a couple of saws, and they're used for drywall, and he uses them to cut his arms off. He cuts them down to the bone. A retired, or actually not a retired, but a guy who's off duty, a paramedic, goes to his assistance and saves the guy's life. Well, while we're talking about this, some guy even related about it on the air, but then we get a phone call from Brian, who Brian is a caller from Waco, Texas, and he calls in and he says that he and his fiancée have been electronically harassed, and while he's telling the story, his phone goes wacko. It goes crazy. And so we're listening and we're hearing the gibberish. We're wondering, well, maybe there is something going on. But then much later, we had a situation with a phone call from a guy named Carlos, who was calling from San Antonio. And he sounded like he was just nervous and scared. And during that time, we're hearing underneath his call what sounds like interference, what sounds like someone listening in on his conversation, and then after the phone call somehow dropped, and you hear a boop sound where it drops, you hear someone still on the line, which after I talked with a number of the engineers here and producers, it's impossible for that to happen because of the way our phone system's set up. In fact, I'm going to walk you into the studio to show you how the phone system is set up. Good out to Brian in Waco, Texas. Hi, Brian. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. Yeah, I wanted to speak about the electronic harassment. Me and my fiance have both been about 2005. And
listen to that. Listen to that. Brian, are you there?
Yes.
Every time you try to tell your story, you were being blocked out. We couldn't hear you. You sounded like you were speaking into, I can't even describe how you sounded. You sound like someone was trying to warp your voice.
Exactly. I've been cut off before trying to talk to you.
Well, keep talking. We can hear you now. All right, let's go now to Carlos in San Antonio. Hi, Carlos. You're on Ground Zero.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches. ¿Cómo anda? ¿Habla inglés o español?
Yeah, sir. Yeah.
Okay, bueno, habla en inglés.
All right. So, let's see. Remember how a while back you were talking about Colts, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I only heard part of it.
Well, I have my little theory here.
Yeah.
Well, with the whole Colt thing, people were like saying the people there.
Are you okay, Carlos?
So,
Carlos, what's wrong? Carlos,
hello.
are you there? Carlos?
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Let's see.
Are you okay? What's going on with you?
Yeah, no, I'm alright. Just a little nervous right now.
Okay, calm down. You're fine.
All right, cool. Let's see.
Are you going to be okay? Wait a minute. I don't know. He hung up the phone, didn't he? How did that happen? How the hell did that happen? He hung up the phone, but yet there was still sound coming. And he sounded... How did that happen? No. Okay, here's the deal. I'm stunned. What just happened now? He was on the phone. You could hear another voice. He sounded like he was nervous. The phone hung up. You can hear the boom. What you need to do, take a break, play back that segment, and I'll show what happened. Something weird happened.
For a second, it sounded like Carlos was having a panic attack or something.
Yeah, he sounded like he was having a panic attack. But then when the phone hung up, you still heard something on the line.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to demonstrate to you how the phone system works here at the studios where we do Ground Zero. First of all, what happens is all the phone lines come in through a phone screener who's at a computer here, and then once the phone line is in, the phone is picked up and they screen the call. It then goes into a computer hookup to where I can see who's calling and who I go to on the phone. Then if you come into the studio here with me, I'll show you how we take the phone calls. We take them right from the board, and see there's a panel. This is the side panel, and this is the other side panel. These are the lines that light up when people call in. Now, when we took the call, when we took Brian from Waco, Texas's call, he came in on this one here, okay? He came in on that line here. You hear the sound, right? You hear the sound of the phone call. Now, when the other call came in, I had to drop his call by going to the next call. If you notice, that line is now dead. So let's demonstrate that again. We start on this line, and he was there talking to me. But then when we went to the next call, that line disappeared, so it was gone. And I was talking there to Carlos. Now what had happened is that Carlos dropped the line. And when the line drops, it goes dead. But what happened is that while that line was still dead, and you heard the boop sound when the line was dead, there was no other line engaged. And we were hearing the sounds of someone else tapping the line. There was no way we could have hoaxed that, because when we go from one line to the next line, that line hangs up automatically. And the only way we could have had 211 is if we were able to lock the line, but we can't lock the line on a local show. We can do it on a national because we have other lines available for the national, but this was a local time, so we could only do it on one line set. So we could not lock the line at all. So what we have here is we have an example of how someone tapped into the phone system, got onto the carrier, and was listening to both the call of Brian and the call of Carlos.
So, as always, during the last hour of the show, I always come back to my desk here to start working on that night's podcast. I have to go through the audio and capture it all. And I'm listening to the show, as I always do, over on the C.I.A radio, and I hear Brian in Waco. I kind of go, oh, wow, his call sounds screwy. I hear a lot of interruption and interference. Oh, well, that sounds kind of odd. And then we immediately go in to Carlos in San Antonio.
Are you going to be okay?
So obviously it didn't all quite come through as I was only listening on the radio, but the way Carlos's phone call ended, and I heard the boop, but the fuzz continued to go, and that's what made me drop what I was doing and run over to the studio and basically then run into Brian, run into Dave, run into Clyde, and I'll go, I heard it. You know, I'm a lot of times the skeptic, but I grabbed my pasta and ran over to the studio to say, I absolutely heard that, and I can't explain it. Knowing how the gear works, but not being in front of the gear, that's what made it stick out even more to me. So just a little bit ago, we hear Clyde's cell phone ring, and I always kind of get nervous as we get close to showtime. I'm like, don't answer your phone. You know, we have to stay on task. And he picks it up, and I immediately hear what is obviously some kind of processed voice. I don't know if he was doing it live through a box or if it was a pre-recorded and then affected. I couldn't say. They obviously said something to the effect of, da-da-da, the things you're saying on the radio, da-da-da, North Korea. I absolutely heard the words North Korea. I started fumbling around, getting my voice memo recorder on my phone just as you tried to grab the camera, but what leads me to believe maybe even the call was recorded is that as soon as it started, it was over. It was probably only 15 seconds tops. So I wasn't able to get a recording, but I asked Clyde, what's the number? And he gave me the number, and he said it was 703-482-0623, and it is very obviously the Office of Public Affairs from the Central Intelligence Agency. Guys you would think would know how to hide their telephone number if they so desired to hide their telephone number. So I see it as a calling card of obviously saying, hey, here's our business card. We want you to know it was us.
Do you think it could have been a civilian trying to make us think it was the CIA?
Surely that technology exists. You're able to kind of spoof telephone numbers, but it stretches the limits of belief that the amount of time and energy and know-how that one would have to go through to do that. It seems unlikely.
So what's really odd is that when I got that call, that alleged call from the CIA, where I heard this voice going, Mr. Lewis, blah, 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 and I'm like going, this is so noir, it's got to be fake, right? And so that's why I said, what? Because I was like thinking, what is this call? Is this a joke? I was thinking it was one of my friends playing a prank on me. And I said, what? And then the phone hung up because by the time I got over to James to have it recorded, and by the time the camera was grabbed, it was too late. But what was interesting is that when I called, I was so unaware of what was going on. When I called the number back, I thought it said the Essential Intelligence Agency. I thought it was Essential Intelligence, which I thought, wait a minute, that's a business? It didn't even strike me as CIA. I mean, you don't think you're going to get a call from the CIA or anyway, anyone who's attempting to either take a number and hack it and bring it to us and make us believe we get a call from the CIA. So we know that the number was to the CIA, but we don't know if the person calling was truly CIA. And we don't know if this is part of some electronic harassment in some way because we brought up the topic of this type of thing. So, I mean, either way, we have a number of witnesses, including the general manager and president of the company who heard the call and also traced the call back. So what we have here is we have a very, very strange thing going on. And I don't know what to make of it, but I guess you have to decide what it is. And we had to go all the way back behind the scenes to show you all this stuff because, quite frankly, you know, when we have people calling a program, especially a young man who said that he attempted to kill his father because he was hearing voices, and we had the founder of the person of the group that's saying that they're being harassed with voice-to-skull synthetic telepathy. When we have a doctor, a well-known doctor in Texas call the program, he's been on several talk shows talking about this. When we have that going on, and then when we have the real thing happening to us, we have to stop and think that maybe we're getting really close. And so you can be as skeptical as you want to be, and that's fine, but it's happening, and it's just amazing, and it's kind of a little frightening for us as well when we're dealing with this. And hopefully we can get down to the bottom of why we got a call from someone who attempted, and they said something about North Korea, so maybe this is unrelated, maybe that's why they were doing it, who knows, but they did bring up North Korea, so obviously something I said about North Korea or something about North Korea that I said probably got somebody angry, and that's why they called the show, or they called my phone. I mean, I can show you if you want to see it. I can show you the number. It's in my caller. It's right there.
Go ahead and hold it up.
Yeah.
Hold it for focus. There we go.
Yeah. So there you go. They called my number on my cell phone, and they called me direct, and they left me a scary no-R voice saying, "We don't like what you're saying about whatever, North Korea." I don't know. So there you go. That's what's going on so far. You've been watching Ground Zero behind the scenes.